The snow began falling before I even boarded the train to the airport. A thin, wet layer coated the tracks, muting every sound. Something about the silence unsettled me, but I chalked it up to exhaustion. It was Thanksgiving break, and I was supposed to be heading home to Denver. I was 23, a journalism student trying to escape a brutal semester at DePaul. O'Hare was quieter than usual, less chaos, more corners of quiet that didn't belong in a space built for constant movement. After checking in and walking to gate K9, I noticed how oddly empty it all felt. A few travelers lingered like ghosts scattered across benches, scrolling phones, asleep under jackets. A heavy snowstorm had rolled in that night, grounding most outgoing flights. Mine was officially cancelled by midnight. The airline offered no compensation. No hotel. No shuttle. Just silence. I didn't bother arguing. I decided to wait it out in the terminal. The area near gate K9 had high glass windows overlooking an invisible runway buried in snow. Fluorescent lights buzzed above, some flickering like dying fireflies. I claimed a seat beside a dusty vending machine and a half-broken charging outlet. My phone battery drained faster than it charged. Around 2 a.m., the terminal changed. That's when I first heard it. Faint, childlike crying. I pulled my earbuds out and froze. There was no one near me, only a snoring couple by the wall and a man asleep under a travel blanket across the aisle. The sound came again. Not sobbing. More like whimpering. High-pitched. Fragile. It came from behind the vending machines. I stood slowly. Hello. The crying stopped instantly. The silence that followed felt heavier than the snow outside. I walked toward the machines, unsure whether I wanted to find someone. The area behind them led to a narrow hall, just a wall, a corner, and a locked janitor's door. I peeked around. Nothing. I even checked the bathroom area, half expecting to find a child lost or playing a prank. Still nothing. But as I walked back, the crying returned. Louder this time. Closer. I snapped my head around, but there was no movement. No shadows. No figures. I sat down again, trying to calm my breathing. Maybe it was stress. Or airport fatigue. Or some weird echo from a distant terminal. But then I saw her. Just past the empty row of chairs. Small. Still. A girl, maybe 5 or 6, wearing a white Sunday dress like something from the 1950s. Her skin was pale. Her hair long, dark, and parted down the middle. She wasn't crying now. She was just watching me. I blinked hard. Once. Twice. She was still there. Motionless in the corridor leading toward gate K11, a section I hadn't even noticed until now. There was no signage lit above it, no announcements on the board, just a darkened wing of the terminal with chairs pushed slightly askew like someone had left in a hurry and never returned. The girl didn't move. I stood slowly, cautiously, the way you'd approach a deer in the road. Are you okay? I called, my voice low, unsure. She didn't flinch. She just turned gracefully and walked away. Not ran. Walked. Smooth, steady, like she wasn't touching the ground at all. Something about the way she moved reminded me of old black and white films. Her dress didn't sway. Her hair didn't bounce. She simply glided. I hesitated. Everything in me said don't follow. And yet, I did. I passed gate K10 dark. No signs. No monitors. No staff. The terminal grew colder with each step, though I felt no draft. As I turned the corner where she'd gone, I found nothing. Just dim emergency lights glowing along the carpeted floor. A red exit sign. Closed security lanes like mouths shut tight. Then came the crying again. Right behind me. My legs froze in place. I didn't turn immediately. I couldn't. The sound was different now. Still childlike but layered. Echoed. As if more than one voice were crying at once. Each one slightly out of sync. Some high. Some low. Some cracked like a broken recording. I spun around fast. No one. But I could feel it. Something had just been there. Inches from my back. I hurried toward the open terminal again, but everything had changed. The buzz of overhead lights was gone. The monitors no longer glowed. Every gate screen was black. Even the ambient music had stopped. Only the red glow of emergency exit signs remained. And then I saw her reflection. Not in the glass windows. In the floor. The glossy tile below me had captured her image standing just behind me. Unmoving. Watching. Her head tilted as if studying me. Trying to understand me. But when I looked up there was nothing. Just my own pale reflection. Sweating. Shaking. Something wasn't right. I began to speak not to her, but to whatever was listening. I just want to get home. My voice cracked in the silence. The air felt denser, like breathing in fog. The lights flickered again. A low static buzz rolled through the air, like a detuned radio. And then, from across the terminal, I heard the faintest whisper. She's not supposed to be here. The voice came from nowhere and everywhere at once. I turned toward the source, a gate agent's desk, but no one was there. Just an old airport radio crackling faintly with static. I walked over, heart pounding, and lifted the handset. Dead. No signal. Then the crying came back. But now it was louder. Sharper. More desperate. I turned slowly. And there she was again, closer than ever. Standing in the center of gate K11. But something had changed. Her eyes. They were completely black. Not red. Not bloody. Not glowing. Just empty. No whites. No irises. No movement. Like marbles painted with darkness. I didn't scream. I couldn't. My voice had vanished somewhere in my chest. I took one step backward. Then another. And that's when she moved. Not toward me. But into the wall. She walked straight through it. No sound. No struggle. Just vanished into the solid, cold structure like she had never existed. My heart hammered in my chest, and I ran. I didn't stop. Not until I reached the main escalators. I sprinted up, 2 stairs at a time, needing to be anywhere else, anywhere but down there. When I turned back at the top, I made the mistake of looking. She stood at the bottom. Staring up at me. Still. Expressionless. And then, she smiled. Just barely. A twitch of the lips. It was the first human thing she'd done, and it terrified me more than everything else combined. Because it wasn't a kind smile. It was a smile of recognition. Like she'd seen me before. I didn't remember running after that. Only that somehow, I was back at the main concourse, hunched over, gasping, hands shaking, as fluorescent light poured weakly from high above like it had forgotten how to shine properly. People were there now. Or maybe they had always been. An older couple dozed across from me, faces oddly slack, as if frozen mid-sleep. A janitor moved a mop slowly across the same square of tile, again and again, like a film loop with no end. No one looked at me. No one noticed that I was visibly trembling, wide-eyed, or drenched in sweat. I might as well have been invisible. I sat, trying to ground myself. I pulled my hoodie tighter and checked my phone 4:09 a.m. Battery, 2%. No signal. No Wi-Fi. Nothing. I opened the camera app, almost out of desperation, and pointed it toward the corridor where gate K11 lay hidden behind shadows. The screen flickered. And then it showed her. standing right behind me. I spun around empty space. I looked back at the screen. She was gone again. And this time, so was my reflection. Only the polished tile stared back at me. I felt something slip inside me, then a bone-deep sense that reality was bending. Or maybe I was bending inside it? My thoughts raced. Was this a haunting? A hallucination? A trauma response? Or something worse? I had to leave. I needed light. People. Sanity. I moved toward the front of the terminal, scanning for signs of staff or security. That's when I saw a figure emerging from a side hallway, a man in a TSA uniform. He was wiping sleep from his eyes and dragging a walkie-talkie from his belt. I rushed to him like he was my only lifeline. Hey, sir, please. There's a little girl. Something's wrong, really wrong, back near gate K11. He squinted at me. Gate what? K11. She's there. But she's not real. The agent's face changed, not to confusion, but something else. Recognition. He paused. You sure you weren't dreaming, kid? I almost snapped, but then he said something that made my stomach knot. You're not the first to say that, he muttered. Every couple of years, someone reports a crying girl near that gate. I stared at him. What do you mean? He hesitated before adding, that whole wing's been shut down since '98. The words hit like ice water. Why? I asked. He shook his head. Fire. Electrical. Faulty design. That gate never reopened. They don't even assign flights there anymore. But I saw her, I whispered. She was standing there. She cried. She followed me. His eyes dropped to my chest, then my back. He took a half step back. You should get some rest. Storm's lifting soon. Flights'll resume at first light. But I couldn't rest. I sat at the front of the terminal as sunlight began to creep through the upper windows. I didn't dare close my eyes. I stared at every reflection. Every monitor. Every tile. Eventually, the boarding announcements resumed. My flight was called. I stepped onto the plane with hollow legs, like someone sleepwalking. As I passed the final gate threshold, I glanced one last time toward the terminal windows. And there she was. In the reflection. Standing still behind a glass door that should have led to a closed-off corridor. Her hands were pressed to the glass. Her face was blank. Her eyes still black. And her mouth moved. But I couldn't hear what she said. I boarded. I didn't look back. I've flown out of O'Hare twice since then. I avoid Terminal K entirely. I've scoured records, reports, even airport archives. There's no mention of a fatality. No official record of an accident in that wing. But the stories exist. Online forums. Rumors. Whispers from overnight workers. They all say the same thing. Don't follow the crying. Don't look at your reflection. And if you see a little girl near gate K11, walk the other way. She's still there, waiting. And I think she remembers me. Because sometimes, when I'm alone on trains, in elevators, even at home, I'll hear it again. That faint, layered cry. And I'll see a shadow. Just barely. In the reflection. I still remember the exact color of the carpet at gate C48. Grayish blue with swirls of mustard yellow, ugly, patterned, the kind you only notice when you're scared out of your mind, kneeling on it, searching for something that shouldn't be missing. My name is Daniel Cole. I'm 33 years old, a high school teacher from Aurora, Colorado, and at least until recently a single father. This story isn't about ghosts in the classic sense. No chains rattling in the night. No Victorian shadows standing at the end of the hallway. This is worse. This is personal. It's about my son. Mason. He was 8. And I swear to you, he was right beside me until he wasn't. It was supposed to be our big father-son trip. Spring break. Just the two of us. San Diego Legoland, the zoo, and a beachfront Airbnb with bunk beds Mason had circled in a brochure like it was his version of Disneyland. He packed his own backpack, Switch, books, trail mix, and a little stuffed dinosaur named Blip he'd had since kindergarten. I can still hear his voice from that morning, cheerful, excited. "Dad, can we sit by the window on the plane? Only if you let me steal half your pretzels," I teased. "Deal." We got to Denver International with plenty of time. TSA was surprisingly smooth. I remember Mason holding my hand as we passed the drug-sniffing dog. He always got nervous about that part. "What if they think I hid candy in my sock?" he whispered. We laughed. I ruffled his hair. Then we got to gate C-48. It was crowded but quiet. That odd early morning hush where everyone's tired but pretending to be alert. Mason took a seat right next to the window. I sat beside him. "We had a 3-hour delay," they announced. "No problem." Mason plugged in his headphones and played Minecraft. I scrolled my phone. Checked work emails I didn't plan on answering. Took a few photos of Mason for our trip journal. And then I told him I was going to grab snacks. "Pretzels?" he asked. "Of course." I walked to the Hudson News just down the hall, maybe 50 yards away, tops. I never lost sight of gate C-48. I glanced back once or twice. He was there, feet swinging, totally absorbed in his game. I was gone maybe 10 minutes. Maybe less. But when I returned, his seat was empty. At first, I assumed he'd gone to the restroom. I called his name, casually at first. "Mason? Buddy?" No answer. I checked both bathrooms, nothing. No line at either. I jogged over to the nearby Starbucks. Asked a few baristas if they'd seen a little boy in a red hoodie and jeans. Blank stares. "Sorry, sir." I came back to the gate, heart pounding now. I asked the couple sitting behind us, an older woman and her teen daughter. "I'm sorry," the mother said, "but I don't think we saw a kid." "What?" "He was right here. He was sitting beside you for almost an hour." She looked concerned. "I don't remember seeing anyone." My voice cracked. "He was here." I flagged down a TSA agent. That's when the nightmare began. They asked all the standard questions. When did I last see him? What was he wearing? Where had we been sitting? I showed them our boarding passes, 2 seats, me and Mason. I pulled out photos. One of him brushing his teeth in the hotel that morning. Another one we took at check-in, standing beside the touchscreen kiosk with his Dino backpack slung over one shoulder. The TSA officer nodded slowly, took down notes, then walked me to the security office. "We'll check the cameras," he said. "Don't worry. Kids wander all the time." But that's not what happened. I didn't lose Mason. He disappeared. There's a difference. The footage showed me walking through TSA. I took off my jacket, unzipped my backpack, stepped through the scanner. Alone. I asked them to rewind it. "Look again," I said. "He's wearing a red hoodie. He's holding my hand." But Mason wasn't there. Not in that clip. Not in the next one. Not at the Starbucks. Not at the gate. I kept insisting, louder each time. "This is a mistake. He was with me. Look, here's the photo I just took of him sitting right there at C-48. I showed the timestamp. 3:37 p.m. They reviewed the footage from 3:37 p.m. I was sitting alone. The woman in the pink hoodie beside me. She was in the footage, exactly where she should be. but the seat next to me, empty. I zoomed into the photo again. There was Mason, smiling, eating trail mix. Blip the dinosaur perched on his lap. The TSA officer leaned in. "Sir, you're the only one in the video." I felt the floor drop beneath me. The room they put me in was colder than it should have been. Not in temperature, but in feeling. The walls were off-white, windowless. A metal table and 2 plastic chairs. One vent above that made a constant humming sound, like it was trying to drown out the silence. I sat there staring at my phone, swiping through photo after photo of Mason. Him feeding ducks at the lake last weekend. Sitting in the back seat with a comic book. Laughing over pancakes at breakfast. And then, the one I took today. At gate C48. Clear as day. He was there. I texted him again. Still no reply. Then the bubble turned green. "No, I'm Sage. Just a failed SMS." Something was wrong. More wrong than missing luggage or a security error. Something beneath the surface of reality was off. An officer finally returned with the printout still frames from the surveillance video. He placed it silently on the table. "This is the footage from when you say you returned with the snacks," he said. I looked. There I was. Standing in front of the empty seat. Only, it wasn't empty. Not in the reflection. I leaned closer. On the glossy window just behind the gate seating, Mason's reflection was staring straight ahead. Right where he should have been. But in the seat? No one. The officer spoke carefully. "There's something strange happening here. I'm not gonna lie." I looked up sharply. "You're saying you see him too?" He nodded once, slowly. "We ran location pings. Your son's phone never showed up in the terminal. His last GPS point was the parking garage. After that, nothing. Like it stopped existing." I remember holding his hand through security, I said. He asked if we could get pretzels instead of chips. He laughed at a little dog with shoes. "That all happened." "It happened. I believe you," he said. But there was fear in his eyes now too. And something else, hesitation. Later that evening, I asked to see the footage again. But this time, I wanted to watch the reflection. The window behind us was more honest than the lens. And what I saw chilled me to my bones. At 3:45 p.m., when I was away grabbing snacks, Mason's reflection turned toward the cameras slowly, deliberately, even though he wasn't physically there. He turned. He looked right into the lens. Then his reflection tilted its head, and slowly began to fade. Like fog in the sunlight. No motion blur. No glitch. Just, vanishing. That night, I didn't leave the airport. I couldn't. I booked a room at the on-site hotel, but I didn't sleep. I just sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, heart pounding like a drum. Around 2 a.m., I thought I heard a voice outside the window. A child's voice. "Dad." But when I opened the curtain, no one was there. Just a reflection. Just me. And in the background, blurry, distant, was a little boy in a red hoodie, walking across the empty terminal floor. By the next morning, I felt hollow. I didn't board any flight. I just walked. Past the same Starbucks. The vending machines. The families. Everything looked normal again. Too normal. Like nothing had ever happened. But the air still carried something else. Something beneath the announcements and chatter. Like a memory replaying on loop, too faint for the human ear, but enough to raise goosebumps on your skin. I sat near gate C48 again. My backpack in my lap. My phone dead. I closed my eyes and whispered, "I know you were here." And just for a moment I swear I felt the weight of a child's head lean against my shoulder. Then nothing. Just silence. I don't know how long I sat there at gate C48 watching nothing, waiting for something. The world went on around me like I didn't exist. People walked by, dragging roller bags, tapping on phones, arguing over upgrades. But I felt outside of it all. Disconnected. Like I was in a parallel version of the same airport one no one else could see. And then someone did see me. A man in a dark gray suit approached. He wore a visitor's badge clipped to his lapel. Airport security liaison, it said. He introduced himself as Detective Wallace, and he wasn't like the others. He didn't ask if I'd taken medication. He didn't ask if I had custody of my son. He just asked one question. Has anything like this ever happened before? I stared at him. What do you mean? He looked away for a moment, scanning the terminal, as if checking whether someone was listening. Then he leaned in. This isn't the first report, Mr. Cole. Every few years, someone says a child goes missing, but records never show they existed. No boarding pass, no camera footage. Only memories. And photos that disappear or change. I felt my blood turn to ice. Change. He nodded. Check the photo again. The one you showed us. I pulled out my phone. Opened the gallery. The photo was still there, but something was wrong. Mason was still in the picture. But his face was slightly different. His smile was too symmetrical. His eyes no longer looked alive. They looked flat. Rendered. Like a replica of him, but not him. Like someone or something trying to remember what a child should look like. I dropped the phone. Wallace stayed with me for a while longer. He asked more questions, gently, like he wasn't just an investigator, but a man who'd seen too much to explain. He told me that gate C48 used to be C49, before a redesign. And before that, C52 years ago. Back in 1996, a family missed their connecting flight from Phoenix to Seattle. A mother. A father. A son. 8 years old. The boy wandered off during the delay. They never found him. No footage. No sightings. Just, gone. They say the mother never left the airport. She came every week for a year. Sat at the same gate. Spoke to the same seat. Until one night, security found her asleep cold. She had passed in her sleep. In her pocket. A drawing of her son. I didn't know what to do with that information. It didn't give me closure. It didn't give me hope. It gave me questions. And fear. Was Mason ever really there? Was I tricked by grief? By a break in my mind? Or did something else take him? Weeks passed. I quit my job. Moved back in with my parents for a while. I stopped going near airports. Couldn't even hear the word terminal without feeling like my chest would collapse. But there's something else I need to tell you. Something I haven't told anyone. One night, 3 weeks after that day, I woke up to a sound in the hallway. A small shuffle. Like bare feet on tile. I stepped out into the living room and my breath caught. Blip Mason's stuffed dinosaur was sitting in the middle of the carpet. I hadn't brought it home. It was in his backpack. The one that vanished. And yet, there it was. Soft. Slightly worn. And on its belly, stitched in black thread, was something that hadn't been there before. 2 words. He's real. I don't know what happened that day at Denver International. I don't know where Mason is. Or what version of reality I'm living in now. But sometimes, when I pass a window, I swear I see a shadow beside me. A small figure in a red hoodie. His head tilted slightly, like he's still watching. Still waiting. And every now and then, in places that should be silent, I hear a whisper behind me. He's not real, but I am.